Hey, howdy, and welcome back to the shop. Still trucking along on Elijah's little 4.3. So, the exhaust manifolds on this, the originals didn't look too bad. We got all of the studs out of them, and for whatever reason, I did not check, but these rascals are warped till who tied the dog. And in the process of looking at the warpedness of them, I discovered that they're cracked. This one's cracked right here and right here. And the warped on them, what happens on, and the small block Chevys did the same thing, but what happens is over time all the heat cycles make these pull in. I mean, this thing's almost 30 years old. Think about how many times this has went from 70 degrees or 50 degrees up to 800 degrees. I mean, it's amazing to me that these things last. But long story short, it ain't. It's done. So these are pulled in. They're cracked. Not going to use them. Now, if this had been the last thing left in the world, I could have put spreaders. Various places sell spreaders that you can screw in here, and you put your spreader in it, in here and in here, and then you heat everything up, cherry red, and with the spreader in it, and then you take your measurements and make sure that everything's measuring right, and you let it cool off from hot to room temperature, and it takes all the stress out. I've done that before. It works. Usually they don't even warp. Sometimes it's actually a little bit better to make some little spacers. Put a spacer in here, bolt them on with the spreaders cold, get everything exactly bolted to the head, and then heat them up and let them cool. Heat them up cherry red in through here and let them cool. And they usually don't crack, and they usually stay that way. But being these are already cracked, I'm going to deep six them. So that brings us to here. So these are a set of Dorman exhaust manifolds. And they don't look too bad on the outside. This is what they looked like straight out of the box. Not too bad. They do fit, the bolt holes line up, but they haven't, they're finishing. They're big old sharp edges everywhere. They didn't even try to remove the casting flash. And the insides of these look like hammered dog crap. I mean, that is a horrible, horrible finish in there. It really needs ported out. I'm not going to fool with it. I'm going to just kind of smooth them a little bit, knock off the worst of it, and let her roll, because I'm not going to fool with it. Eventually, these are going to get headers, and it's just not worth it. But, that being said, I am going to take my die grinder and knock these parting lines down, and then I'm going to take a counter bore and flatten these up where the washers are actually sitting on something flat. I just don't like putting a washer up against anything that looks like that. I did take a cape chisel. This is a cape chisel, and there was a lot of flash and crap and looked like chunks of sand up in this casting, in this pocket here, in this area here. I chiseled that out and chipped that out as good as it could chip. And there goes the air compressor. Before I take it to the drill press, I'm going to run the needle scaler over these pockets too. When I machined this manifold, this cast iron is amazingly soft. It machined beautiful. One man said, this kraut machinist that I watch on YouTube, he said you should never consider anything cast in China to be a finished product, but instead consider it to be a raw casting to make something out of. A lot of wisdom in this. So, you know, some assembly required, some rework required. Shouldn't have to be that way. I spent good money on these. They came from the store that's got all the parts that my car should ever need. I shouldn't have to do all that I'm doing, but I am. It just needs done. Now these did come with the stove built on it, you know, the tin stove for your warm air intake for your air cleaner. I'm not going to use that. I wish I had all the little heat shields and doodabbies that goes in here, but they were kind of looking pretty sad off of the other manifolds, so I'm not even going to bother using them. So let's get this thing clamped in the vise, and I'll hit it up with the die grinder and just take off all this crap in here so I don't have to worry about cutting the thunder out of myself when I'm changing spark plugs. So I've got her slicked up about as good as it needs to be, and maybe a little better. Big point is I didn't want to cut my fingers if I was changing spark plugs. So we're going to set her up here on the drill press, and I'm going to run this counterbore bit. And put counterbores on all them bolt pockets. Well, how'd that happen? Beg your pardon? Now let's try this again. Ooh, right. Well, the machine's good. Now, if you don't have a 100-year-old drill press like this one, what you should probably do is, I don't know, go rob a jewelry store or something and come up with the money to buy one. Sell off the baby's milk. I don't know. Hey, that's just enough room. Because when you're doing rough work like this, you don't need a whole lot of precision. What you do need is a whole lot of slow turning horsepower. And you don't even really need a lot of horsepower, you just need a whole lot of slow turning. And that's something these old antique drill presses have got, is a lot of slow turning loveliness. What? Cast iron even tastes good. All right, there we go. So those are all spot faced now. Now these bits, I've got a video. I think it's try it yourself or do it yourself counterbore tool. This is just a cheap drill bit that's been ground into a counterbore tool. This drill press is my Champion 20-inch Camelback. I do have a rebuild video on this, some of my earliest videos, as a matter of fact. So if you're interested, go back and watch them. But that's kind of I guess my review of these Dorman exhaust manifolds. They work. They're exhaust manifolds. They're better than trying to dig up new ones or good ones in a junkyard, because there ain't none. But they do need some work done to them to make them a decent product. So with that being said, y'all drive safe, watch for deer. Oh, and give me a big fat thumbs up for taking the trouble to film it for you.